Folks, President Biden and Congress plan to sign many bills into law this summer, and that is also news for Americans across the country. And this is going to mean that more financial aid is coming to you guys. Welcome back to my channel, everybody. This is your fourth stimulus check update and daily news report. I hope all of you guys are having a great day. Now, before we get into the video, feel free to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. Now, millions of Americans, everybody, want lawmakers in Congress to pass a fourth stimulus relief bill. Until recently, the act of governing seemed to happen at the speed of presidential tweets, but now President Biden is sitting in for what appears to be a long summer of legislating.
Look, the bipartisan bill from the very beginning was understood there's going to have to be the second part of it. I'm not just signing the bipartisan bill and forgetting about the rest that I proposed. I proposed a significant piece of legislation in three parts. And all three parts are equally important. And by the way, my party, everybody tells me what my party is. My party is divided.
The good news is that Congress is ready. The House of Representatives and Senate are working through a month-long stretch. Lawmakers are trying to send out and draft Biden's big infrastructure deals. The lawmakers want to draft President Biden's infrastructure ideas into a bill that could actually be signed into law. Perhaps not since drafting the Affordable Care Act. Now folks, President Biden appears comfortable in this space. He's embarked on an agenda in Congress that is rooted in his top legislative priority. The $4 trillion Build Back Better plan is now being shaped as his American Jobs Plan and his American Families Plan. To land the bills on President Biden's desk, he's relying on an old-school legislative process that can feel out of step with today's fast-moving political cycles.
When you saw Democrats and Republicans and the President of the United States stand outside together and say, we've come to agreement to work toward passing a historic investment in infrastructure, one that would have, I just have this handy chart up here, I thought someone might ask about this, would have key components that would help communities across the country. And I talked with him about this morning.
And hope for quick payoffs. Democrats are anxious that it is taking too long, and he's wasting precious time negotiating with Republicans. Today, the president is expected to launch another week of engagement with members of both parties, and the White House is likely at some point to hear from a bipartisan group of senators working on a scaled-back $1 trillion plan as an alternative. At the same time, the Biden administration is pushing ahead, with the president's own, more sweeping proposals being developed in the House and Senate budget committees, tallying as much as $6 trillion under a process that can enable Democrats to pass it on their own. Initial votes are being eyed for late July. During last week's infrastructure negotiations, White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates said this: "This is how negotiations work. We continue to work closely with Democrats of all views, as well as Republicans on the path forward. There are many possible avenues to getting this done, and we are optimistic about our chances." During his administration, the former president had the full sweep of Republican control over the House and the Senate in the first 2 years. But the limits of legislating quickly became clear. Republican Senator Rob Portman, who is the leader of bipartisan negotiations, said today that the former president proposed an infrastructure package. Portman also added if President Biden sticks with his bipartisan talks, he can not only fulfill a campaign promise, but keep his pledge of doing things across the aisle and getting something done. Because everybody wants to do infrastructure. Now, even if Joe Biden reaches for a bipartisan deal, skeptical Democrats are wary. Thankfully, lawmakers also have been energized by the speed at which Congress was able to approve relief. They are eager for swift action on those next proposals. Biden's strategy this time is a two-part approach. He's trying to secure a bipartisan deal on roads, bridges, and broadbands, and the more traditional type of infrastructure, while also pursuing the broader Democratic priorities package. The budget committees are preparing some $6 trillion in spending on what the White House calls the human infrastructure of American lives, with childcare centers, community colleges, and elder care in President Biden's plan. Now folks, Democrats will continue to press on with their own massive package. But still, there are millions of Americans throughout the country that have been receiving unemployment benefits as part of the American Rescue Plan. While traditionally, one might lose these benefits once they find work, there are programs now in place to ensure that workers can go back to work and still retain some of the benefits. If you guys found this video useful and helpful, feel free to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like.
Because I got whiplash after watching the president yesterday say there was a deal, then say there was no deal. And say you can't have a deal of $1 trillion on infrastructure, but you got to vote for $5 trillion the same time too, and you got to raise taxes on everybody, and you've got to have a Green New Deal. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think that's going to pass. And I think they killed any opportunity. I think it was disingenuous in every shape or form. Manu, how are you? All right, I wrote down what I think your question is. Let me see if I get it
Well, I
right.
wanted to follow up with the select committee, because last month you did say that you'd be willing to testify before an outside commission. Now that there is a select committee, would you be open to talk about your conversation with Donald Trump to a select committee?
Well, I don't know that there is a select committee. The speaker's never talked to me about it. She hasn't set the scope. She didn't tell me about it. I haven't seen anything, so I don't know what it is. I haven't seen anything voted on. I'll wait till I review what that is. The question that you're referring to asked if I would talk to you about it. I have no problem talking to anybody about it. I don't know what the conversations that day would matter as that's going on. What I think would really matter, especially if you read the report the bipartisan in the Senate has already done from 2 committees, is the lack of taking knowledge that they had prior.
Leaders in Congress to determine the sequencing and the timeline for those pieces moving forward. But he's going to use every lever at his disposal. He's going to be involved. He's going to roll up his sleeves. He's going to work like hell to get both of these pieces of legislation done.
What does that really look like? Because he says that if one doesn't come to him, he's not going to sign the other. So is he going to wait for both of them to land on his desk before signing the bipartisan package, waiting for the reconciliation package to come through?
He fully expects, hopes, plans to sign both into law, and he will leave it to leaders in Congress to determine the timeline and the sequencing. Go ahead.
So just to follow up both on that and Darlene's question, the issue Republicans seem to be having is on that specific issue. I won't sign it if the other one isn't on my desk. And I think that's what has them frazzled, perhaps would be the word right now, an eloquent one. So digging in on that, if leadership decides to send you the bipartisan bill, but the reconciliation bill is not done yet, the president said yesterday, I won't sign it, and that is the White House position on it?
Well, let me just take a step back here, because I think the American people are quite focused on how we're getting work done on their behalf, less focused on the mechanics of the process. Now, it is up to Republicans, many of whom are the ones who have conveyed that, I think, if I'm accurate here, to decide if they are going to vote against a historic investment in infrastructure that's going to rebuild roads and railways and bridges in their communities simply because they don't like the mechanics of the process. That's a pretty absurd argument for them to make. Good luck on the political front on that argument. So the president's going to continue to advocate, educate, convey to everyone directly why this needs to move forward. And he plans to stand exactly by the commitment he made yesterday to them, and he expects they'll do the same.
Two more quick ones. You guys just released a readout with a call with Senator Sinema.
Yeah.
He's one of the lead negotiators. In that readout, the president was reiterating pretty much all of the things he said when he was standing with the senators. Was there a need for the president to reassure Senator Sinema, or was that just a normal scheduled call?
I think it's just a reflection of the president's commitment to stay very engaged. Yesterday was not the end. I know none of you thought that, but just to be clear, there's work ahead.